Hey, Chandra Lake here again, coming back, just kind of talking about my journey and offering some guidance or just some interesting things that I wish I would have known when I first started this journey of caregiving for the past 7 years. So one of the things I talked about in my previous video was 5 key questions that you should ask yourself to determine if your loved one needs to have a guardian. Today, I want to talk about 5 key questions that you need to ask yourself to determine if your loved one needs a conservator. Now, the two are different. There are two different roles and responsibilities of each one. A guardianship actually helps a person to make personal and medical decisions. They actually make those decisions for them, whereas a conservator helps with financial and property decisions. Um, Protection versus autonomy. The courts prefer the least restrictive option for the most part. So if a power of attorney or trust will do, then judges may deny or limit a full guardianship or conservatorship. However, if you have a case where the power of attorney is not necessarily working, because the power of attorney does not necessarily take away the rights, not rights. I don't want to say rights. That's kind of aggressive, but doesn't restrict the person from making decisions. For example, a power of attorney in place will not restrict that person from making terrible financial decisions. Okay, they can still go make withdrawals, uh, write checks. They can still do those things if there's a power of attorney. But a conservatorship kind of restricts that power to one person so that they're the ones that's making all the financial decisions. So both roles require some detailed record keeping and regular court filings. Actually, yearly, you have to submit paperwork to the court of what has occurred over the past 12 months or accounting period when it comes to the conservatorship and also for the guardianship. So they're both kind of different. So you have to determine where your loved one is at the moment where you're thinking that they need to have some assistance from you. Okay, is it warranted? And so if you check out my previous video on guardianship, you'll see the 5 questions you can ask yourself. But today I want to talk about the 5 questions you can ask yourself for conservator to see if your loved one actually needs to have a conservatorship in place or if it's necessary. So number one, is my loved one unable to manage their financial affairs without putting themselves at risk? For example, you need to look for signs like unpaid bills, excessive spending, scams, or even confusion over money. These are things that will kind of prompt you to say, well, maybe I should step in and help them to make these decisions or help them to, organize their finances. Again, the least restrictive way is probably the best way. Like if you have that relationship with your loved one and they're comfortable with you doing these things and they're working with you, then the least restrictive way is to have that conversation and to offer your assistance. Um, if this is not possible, then you do need to, as their loved one, to make that decision of whether or not you need to step in and become a conservator for them to actually handle the finances for them. Number two, does my loved one have a medical condition like dementia, brain injury, mental illness that affects their decision making ability? So, a formal diagnosis indicating cognitive or psychiatric impairment is often key in establishing the need for conservatorship. So this isn't necessarily something that you can diagnose on your own. You need to have a professional medical provider to step in and be able to let you know if if this is the case for your loved one. This isn't something that you should be trying to judge on your own. You need to have a record of them being diagnosed with this specific condition, whatever it may be. And the court, if you are officially seeking conservatorship, the court will require that this determination has been made in most cases, especially if your loved one is contesting or not in agreement with you being the conservator of their finances. Okay, number three, do they have less restrictive alternatives like power of attorney or trust already failed or are no longer appropriate? So, again, the courts usually prefer the least invasive option. If those are no longer viable, a conservatorship may be the next step. So, as an example, with our loved one, we did start with the power of attorney, but for reasons that we were not aware of, the situation medically with this particular individual, it was no longer viable because again, the power of attorney does not restrict them from continuing to make bad financial decisions. So when the power of attorney was in place, this individual was still, uh, in addition to myself handling their finances, they would go, to the bank and overdraw, so they would, still go and in their case they had a gambling addiction as well, and so it just wasn't viable to keep the power of attorney. We had to seek more restrictive measures to make sure that they could pay their bills, that they had transportation, that they had a roof over their head, that they were not ending up in collections on certain things. That we even had a case where someone had talked them into co-signing for them. They weren't even a relative, and so we knew we had to put some restrictive practices in place to make sure that our loved one was taken care of. And again, I say this, and I say this in all sincerity, that if this loved one, if it's your parent or someone that you have that relationship with or have the capacity in your heart to take care of, then you need to do it, because it's my understanding, and I know that there are good people in the world, but there's also a lot of people that's looking to take advantage of a senior. And so you need to step up and make sure you're doing the right thing for your loved one. Number four, is there ongoing conflict among family members over finances or care decisions? So a conservatorship can provide a neutral, court-appointed or court-monitored structure where disputes threaten your loved one's well-being. Now, we didn't have this. We were all in agreement that someone needed to do this, and everyone was in agreement that it should be myself. And then what I love about the conservatorship through the court, where it's official, is that everyone is informed of what's going on. Everyone receives the yearly report. The court is aware of every decision that's made. And so there's a lot of transparency. And there's four of us, we don't have the suspicions of things, going wrong, or, that someone's making decisions that's not ethical and it's not fair, but it's all through the court. And I love having that neutral party to be able to help us navigate as family members wanting to make sure that our loved one is taken care of. So that's number four. If you have conflict, then this is even more reason to have a conservatorship in place. Number five is the final one. Is someone exploiting, manipulating, or financially abusing your loved one? If they're vulnerable to influence or in danger of being taken advantage of, legal protection is critical. It's critical. There are so many vultures out here. Listen, um, I'm going to come back with the story time, because, yes, I want to come back with the story time. I'm going to do that later. I'm not going to do that today. But if you realize that someone is exploiting or manipulating or financially abusing your loved one, then you have every reason to step up and take control and make sure that you can get this person out of their life. If they have influence, over them, then you need to step up and make sure that you're doing the right thing and making sure your loved one is taken care of. Because at the end of the day, especially if there are a parent or guardian, it is, and I hate to say it, it is your responsibility. Now, I talked the other day about there's two cases. There are cases where, there are parents that have that great relationship. They did everything, in accordance to what the child believed was right. There's no fuss about what's going on. They're communicating. They're transparent with their family members, and so it's easier. But in our case, we didn't have that. We didn't have that communication. We didn't have that great relationship. We didn't, we don't have very great memories, but it doesn't deter us from making the right decision for our loved one. And so it's critical that you step up and you're able to help them to navigate the end of life so that it's comfortable, so that they're not struggling if you're able to, so that you can make sure that they are in the best care possible. And so those are 5 things that you need to ask yourself if your loved one will be in need of a conservator. So Chandra Lake, I'm going to sign off now, and I'm going to do a story time. Not today, but I'm going to come up really soon. It's going to crack you guys up, I hope. So, all right, I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions, again, I'm not an attorney. I do suggest that you seek legal advice from a family attorney that practices family law, so that you can get the best advice possible and someone to help you navigate through this system. All right, have a great day. I hope your day is amazing and that your loved one is cared for with dignity. Have a great day.